my name is Dr. Joanna Kujawa, and I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, which I also call Goddess News Channel, although it is under my name. So very often people ask me about giving them, some practical applications to the exploration of a goddess and embodying of a goddess. And because I normally, just by nature of my interest, I focus on more kind of mythological and spiritual aspects of this, and exploring the goddess in the knowledge of goddess. But something recently very interesting happened, because I posted on Facebook that I'm going to give a talk on making profound decisions and emotional intelligence, and lots of people commented saying that they would be interested in hearing this. And it gave me an idea how I could connect it, to our goddess studies and goddess explorations. And in fact, I just remotely gave this presentation, which went very well. And I thought that perhaps in a more relaxed way and more goddess-oriented way, I could adjust this presentation for you, since you're interested. And before I start, I would like to ask you that if you enjoy these videos, to subscribe and like a video, because it really helps for me to produce more videos, and I love connecting with you this way. And basically you can spread the message. So that was a big surprise for me, that because it is such a different topic, that people from my channel and from my Facebook were interested in it. So that's why I decided to explore it as a practical goddess making profound decisions in our lives. So I think that this is very important practice, because very often and I am a prime example of this, we feel stuck in some aspects of our lives. Most of the time it is either professional life, which usually is connected with finances, or some other aspects of professional life, or a personal life. Wherever you are stuck, this is when you have to make a different decision based on your connection with the goddess, which I explored in my other videos, in my lecture for Cardium Society in Melbourne, that you can check, about Gnostic goddesses Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. Because for me, she's also the goddess of gnosis, which the Gnostic called, the supreme knowledge. Or, in Hinduism, it is also called, they call it supreme knowledge, although, under different term, which is, for me, from an emotional point of view, emotional intelligence, point of view, is basically a form of intuition, which is sometimes also used in New Age parlance as intuition, but actually it is a real thing that is also confirmed in neuroscience, which, I don't have time to cover right now. I don't want to get academic here. I just want to get, really practical, practical goddess. So, why are we stuck? Because we are making decisions in the same way. We are making linear decisions from here to there. And in fact, once I wrote a blog, which is basically life is not meant to be lived in a straight line. And I mean it. And when you think about it, a goddess is always represented as a spiral, almost like the galaxies. When you see Google galaxies, they're usually spirals, these beautiful spirals, right? Nothing is linear in nature, and nothing is linear spiritually. Our spiritual journey is not linear, and just as well, because it would be really boring, and it would be like something that artificial intelligence would do, but we are more than that. So, so when we try to make it, so there are two things. We get stuck when we make decisions in a linear way, right? So basically we assess what we already know, and we think, okay, based on my past experience, and this is a key word here, past experience, this is what I'm going to do. Now, this is a big mistake. Why is that? That's a big mistake because past is a past. And if we limit our knowledge to what we already experienced in the past, the result will be exactly the same that it was in the past. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I would like to share with you a couple of slides from my academic presentation. I will not bore you with this. I just so it's easier for you to see it visually. So when do we make our stack? This is when we make this kind of linear decision based on our past experiences. And one of my favorite sayings by Albert Einstein is his definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I repeat, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I want you to pause, and I want us to pause here for a moment. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And this is, if you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to end up in precisely the same point. You just came a full circle. You know, it's just because you base your decision on what you normally do. What you normally do does not serve you if you're stuck. Okay, so this is kind of brutal truth, but it's also Goddess truth, because, you know, she doesn't like linear things. So, and I connect Goddess with intuition. So, okay, and with higher knowing. So, I would like you to pause for a moment and think about a situation in your life in which you find yourself that you're stuck, whether in a personal life or in a professional life. You can pause this video and think about it. Yes. And I'm going to pretend that you pause the video because I'm going to give you some examples. So for example, my students, you know, I teach emotional intelligence for postgraduate students. They say, you know, it's very often in their relationships or in their career. So if you, for example, want to develop your career, but you make the same choice over and over again based on panic, based on financial need, which I completely understand, I've been there, that is lack of self-knowledge, because it means that you repeat the same thing, you act out of fear. And as all spiritual teachers from all spiritual traditions say, if you make a decision based on fear or aspect of fear, which is panic, frustration, which is an aspect of anger, you know, or, you know, have a feeling that, you know, doesn't serve you to make a decision, the result will be frustration. The result will be, you know, panic. The result will be, you are going to find yourself in the same place emotionally and also physically, materially, you know, in your career and in your relationship. Because this is not how we are beings with deep intuitive knowledge that we are not exploring. In fact, I'm just digressing. I've been watching lots of videos by Lex Friedman, who is a genius in artificial intelligence and so on. And I'm really horrified because the smartest people on the planet do not understand simple basic rules of the Goddess, emotional intelligence and intuition and higher knowing. They're just stuck in this rational, linear way of thinking. And unfortunately, they decide their future. So that's why we have to tune into the Goddess, emotional intelligence and intuition and higher knowing, not only individually but and collectively, because otherwise they will create a nightmare for us collectively. But in the meantime, we are creating a nightmare in our lives, being, you know, stuck over and over again by making the same choices over and over again. So if you do not mind, I would like to share one theory, which is called Theory U. I slightly disagree with this, but I'll tell you this at the end, because I think it's even more complex, even more exciting, and even more goddess-like, which actually tells us how we can make profound decisions that are life-changing and that are not based on our current knowledge, but we are reaching out to the future. So this Theory U was actually discussed by a scientist from MIT. His name is Otto Klaus Scharmer, and he introduced it to, you know, human consciousness in 2004, then I wrote a book about it again in 2016, which is basically reaching out to the field of all possibilities, what Deepak Chopra would call field of all possibilities, but also what physicists called, you know, field of your field, you know, because we are all basically embodied in the cosmic field, right? But we ignore it because we focus right away. So on any level, whether it is professional, spiritual, or personal, you know, if you start your thinking in a linear way based on what you already know and on strategizing, it's not going to work. and I know it's kind of against practical knowledge. All the inspirational speakers tell you, have a plan, follow the plan to the dot. And my experience, and I live even by now, I live the full life, I'm telling you, that most beautiful and also spiritually satisfying and magical thing happens when you allow things to happen in your life in a non-linear way. But you have to be prepared for this. So if you do not mind, I would like to share one more slide with you, just so it's easier for you to envision it, and envision what I'm talking about. I'm not going to really discuss the theory, just a moment. I thought I shared the screen, but I didn't. I'm not going to discuss the theory with you. I'm just going to go to the practical aspects of this. So this is, normally we do this kind of decision, straight, strategizing. I know what I want. I know how to get there. Or at least, inspirational speakers are telling me it's very linear. But this theory, is teaching us something else. And I think it's really related to a practical application of a goddess, or, charmer, Otto Scharmer, who have no clue what I'm talking about, right? Because academics have a way of making things, exciting things, really boring. And I'm trying to unwrap it for you, so it actually has a practical application for you. So what do we do? There are several steps, and this is good, because this is when the rational thinking works. But these steps are actually, interestingly, take us away from rational steps. So the first thing we do is suspending. Suspending. What is suspending? Suspending is this, what we just did a moment ago. It's a form of self-knowledge and self-regulation. Two qualities of a goddess. Self-knowledge, self-regulation, which are also defined in science of emotional intelligence. So, what is self-knowledge? It is acknowledging that I'm again in this point of my life when I thought I did everything right, and I'm in the same situation, maybe different man, the same situation, maybe different job, but the same issues. What is going on? Why am I still unfulfilled? I thought I've done everything right. And again, the mistake here lies in the fact that, we based our action and our strategizing, our whole mental process on what we already know. So suspending is really good in realizing that I'm here. I'm again here, and it's not a happy place. It's an unfulfilling place, realizing it. And it's also, instead of normally we are frustrated, like, I'm here again. No, acknowledge it and congratulate yourself on your self-knowledge. Wow, this time I noticed that I'm still in the same horrible place, unsatisfying place. Acknowledge it and be grateful. And you say, wow, that's self-knowledge, that's gnosis, it's higher knowledge to catch yourself, thinking, actually, this is a higher thinking. That's the example, very, very simple higher thinking, which is called also in emotional science, metacognition. You watch your own thinking. It's self-awareness. It's also what we do in meditation. So once you realize it, the first thing to do is to ask yourself a question, and this is where self-regulation comes. What I normally do when I'm in this kind of situation. For example, for me in the past, panic. I panic, okay? Or I jump into action without thinking, okay? So, and for you, it could be different. Maybe you are actually not acting when you should be acting, or maybe so it's different for everybody else, right? Maybe you're an agonizer. I have a wonderful, extremely smart friend, who you are, who is like, procrastinating. So it's different for everybody. So ask yourself, okay, so this is where I am. Notice where you are, and that you've been in this place before. And now, what would you normally do in this situation? So for example, if I feel like I'm facing possible financial situation or something, I start applying madly for jobs that actually do not serve me and my high evolution, and actually doesn't serve my career. And I see, for example, some of my colleagues doing it now because of COVID, it's complex and so on. So what do you normally do? Acknowledge what you normally do. And again, congratulate yourself, right? I know what I normally do, so I'm in this situation again. This is what I normally do in this situation. And now, doesn't matter how madly you want to do or not to do something, don't do this. Don't do what you normally do. I repeat, don't do what you normally do. Suspending thinking, suspending action. So if your problem is that you normally just jump into action without considering, other aspects, don't. If you start, beating yourself up, which I'm also very good at, by the way, don't. Just stop. Just stop. And I'm telling you, because I'm very, what is called in some terminology, vital, which means I really, like this third chakra, just really want to go into action. No. And it can be very difficult. Don't do what you normally do. So this is suspending, my friends. This is suspending. So what is the next one on the U theory or emotional intelligence? Is redirecting. Redirecting. What is redirecting? It takes humility to redirect. It means to acknowledge, even not to acknowledge, but once you, to open up, I would say, that there must be other ways of approaching the situation. There must be another way of doing this in a way that I didn't do in the past. I know that this is normally what I do in the past, but there must be another way. It's again an acknowledgement, which is also gnosis, it's just form of higher knowledge, acknowledging that there must be something else in the field of your existence that you have not considered, and that you just let go at this moment, because this is what the next step is: letting go and letting come. Okay, so you let go, and this is practice, again, very spiritual practice in personal humility. And I'm an academic, okay? It's really tough for me, like, letting go, I don't know. But that's why it's so good, because by letting go, you admit yourself, I really don't know anything about it, right? I just know that I'm always in the same situation, doesn't matter what I do. And I know that, this particular form of acting in the situation doesn't serve me. So since I don't know anything, I let go of all my past experiences. I let go of what I have learned in the past. Very difficult, because we love to be so self-righteous, right? I let go. I'm going to be like a baby. I open up my beginner's mind. It's this beautiful thing in Buddhism, especially Zen Buddhism, the beginner's mind. And this is, again, goddess knowledge, high knowledge. I'm opening myself to the goddess. If you want, you can even perform some rituals. Some people love rituals. I love meditation, meditation on a goddess, whether it is goddess, of wisdom, or like Sophia, for example, Gnosticism in Hinduism. It could be Saraswati, or any other, like more adventurous type of goddess, because you want to explore other, so to speak, possibilities. And you just admit to yourself, honestly, I really don't know. And I actually don't even want to analyze. Let go of analyzing what I did right, what I did wrong. Shouldn't I say? Maybe I shouldn't have said it in the meeting. Maybe I shouldn't have said it to him or her. Never mind. Analyzing is not goddess wisdom. Analyzing in this kind of artificial intelligence, or linear thinking, and we have to get away from this to even survive as species. So do not analyze and say, okay, I really let go what I have learned so far. No, there are thoughts coming, no, right? And what you do, you just do your best. And I know it is difficult because sometimes situations are pressing, and you just relax to the present moment. Easier said than done, right? But relax. Meditation, listening to calm music. I also highly recommend structuring journaling. And in fact, I would like to do a workshop for you like that sometime soon when I have some time, and relax. And then let new ideas come from the field, or as Sharma says, from the future almost, the future that you want to create. Let it come without any judgment. Let go of a judgment. It may mean that you have to go to places you've never gone before, actually have a conversation with people that you normally wouldn't have. And this is what happened to me. I just started to look at YouTube channels, and I came across something that is as different as I normally consider, artificial intelligence, and the big high-tech guys. And I saw their brilliance, and I saw how completely clueless they are. I'm sorry, right? Clueless. about higher wisdom, completely caught up in a rational thinking, right? But as I was watching what they are doing, they started to give me new ideas. What could I do? What could I have podcasts about? What could I write about? How could I change the situation that I want to change, creatively and professionally, and they give me so many ideas simply because they are from a completely different field, not about, their way of thinking, but how do they approach problems, because they approach problems differently. What do they do with their podcasts and so on? And in some, I cannot even pinpoint it, but, it is like, the idea started to flow. Okay, so it's letting come, letting go. And it just, okay, wow, that's a really wild idea, right? And that's okay. That's okay. So, and it's also good at this stage to probably take notes of some of these ideas, because how it is with great ideas. They're often very wonderful downloads, and this is what happens during letting go, letting come. You get divine downloads. So write them down, because it's just like divine inspiration, creative inspiration. It comes, it goes. Like you have to pay attention, right? So also a meditation would help, and structured journaling would help here. Then after this phase, when you just, we don't know how long it takes. It may take a long time, so you have to be patient with yourself and stay open in your heart, stay open in your mind, and, do your rituals to, the divine feminine, I would say, because for me, divine feminine represents energetically, this kind of mysterious form of wisdom, which is almost kind of shamanic wisdom, which is more cosmic wisdom rather than rational wisdom, right? And then the next stage, ladies and gentlemen, is, just so you can visualize it, is visualizing, actually, crystallizing. What is crystallizing? You start to, and this is where I would say, practice visualizing, crystallizing. Okay, I think that this is what I would like to do. And that has to be probably very different from what you've done before. So based on this letting come, letting go, opening to new ideas, I think that I would like to do this, or maybe that, and again, it's very good as you meditate, do structured journaling, but it has to be very intuitive journaling. Do not, correct your grammar. Do not worry about your sentences. Do not worry, and never ever, whether it's correct or not, and never ever show it to anyone else. Never ever. Okay, because people have opinions based on where they are at the moment, and you have to be in yourself. We're talking about embodying of a goddess. Yeah, unique goddess in yourself, or divine feminine, and it goes also for men. What Carl Jung called the anima. We both have it, both women and men. And if you should, imagine how would you like to be, what would you like to do? And the next thing, and it's a very pleasant process. Unfortunately, lots of people stop there, and that's an unfinished process. It doesn't lead to anywhere. It's just daydreaming. But you have to allow yourself to daydream, but then you have to do something. And what is it? Enacting and prototyping. What is prototyping? Prototyping, it means taking small risks in the direction of your new vision. I don't know. Maybe you have to redo your CV from a completely different point of view. Maybe you would send an article to a journal that you would never send to. Maybe you would ask somebody out, but a completely different person that you normally would ask, right? Maybe, that's that handsome dark stranger, but maybe, handsome dark stranger, happened too many times in your past, right? So maybe now you'd ask somebody else out. Whatever, small actions, like sending out here, sending out there, and see what the response is, who says yes, who says no, and no judgment, because not a big deal. It's not an investment, big investment. It's just, you are a goddess of exploration here. Okay, you're just exploring possibilities. You are like a divine sailor. Imagine yourself on, I like to imagine myself on a small boat with a small sail attached to it. I'm just lying at the bottom of a boat, looking at the sky, listening to the waves, and like, no, my ego is not involved, right? The rejection here, acceptance there. I'm just checking out the action. I'm just trying out new ideas that I believe, are higher downloads. So this is what you do. And the next thing, without judgment. So don't let your ego be involved in it because, like defeat, loser, winner, don't even go there. Then it is performing. And what is performing? Because it's, unfortunately, it is also used in business studies, which is, very much about performing. But performing, it is like being that, and then you start to truly embody, fully embody that, your goddess, your anima, so this new action that you wanted to do, right? This new person that you wanted to be, or actually a new solution to the situation that you find yourself over and over again, either personally or professionally or spiritually, because you're acting from from your past rather than from the field around you, from all possibilities that you never looked into it. So the most important thing is, do not rationalize it, do not judge it, so I just repeat, just surrender to the process. And the process is actually very well structured. First is suspending. Know that you are in the same place again, despite best intentions. Know that you were acting until this point based on your experiences and knowledge from the past, right? Acknowledge this and actually congratulate yourself, because self-knowledge is the highest form of spiritual knowledge. That's the goddess itself speaking to you, okay? She's talking to you. The anima, the divine feminine, is speaking to you through self-knowledge, the gnosis, okay? Goddess Sophia, if you can imagine that. And then ask yourself, what would I do in this situation normally? And don't do this. And just don't do this. And then tell yourself, there must be a different way of doing it. Probably very different from my usual way of doing it. And then letting come, letting go, acknowledge, I have no clue what to do. Another spiritual value, humility, letting go of your ego, basically, right? And then letting come, exploring areas that you normally wouldn't explore, professionally, spiritually, personally, in any way you want. And then when you get the new ideas, and it can take time, you start to visualize yourself fulfilling these ideas. Okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? And write down the ideas how you can enact them. Then make small risks, take small risks and take small actions, in the direction of this, without any judgment. Again, I'm just an explorer. Do you mind? My ego is not involved. We are just playing, right? Beginner's mind. We're just playing, right? Nothing serious. No investment, in my self-importance. I would admit it. I don't know anything, right? And then you fully embody it. You take these actions. You watch what is, working for you, what is not working for you, how actually the universe responds to your actions, and go with the ones that are you're being supported at. And then embody the process. Be that person in that situation that you always wanted to be. But first you have to envision it from a completely different point of view. And this is where I want to take you to another PowerPoint slide from my academic presentation, don't laugh, and it's this. When you look at representation of a goddess or representation of a galaxy, it's always represented as a spiral. It's a very holistic process, going, weaving. Also, in many indigenous traditions, the goddess is basically perceived as the weaver, she's the universe that she's weaving. So I want you to imagine yourself as a new universe that you create, respecting fully your divinity, your self-worth. Sometimes it means, ignoring your past, and especially your thought patterns and your emotional patterns, right? And weaving, like, goddess, a new cosmos, a new order, with fun. Nothing is involved in this, no ego is involved. And yes, sometimes you get rejections. Okay, so this is, I'm not going to go there, I'm going to go where, the doors are opening for me. because I tell you from the experience, too many times in my life, I was banging at the door but didn't want to open. And when eventually I moved away from the door and I went in the spiral way of a goddess, that door opened for me in most wonderful and effortless ways. And with that, dear friends, I would like to finish this presentation. I hope that you enjoy, because this presentation, if you do, I have more presentations related to the practical goddess, or practical application of the wisdom of goddess. And if you do like it, please subscribe. And if you do like it, please like this video. With lots of love and joy, Dr. Joanna Kujawa. Thank you so much.